Hey there, y'all. It's your girl, Sean LeRae, and welcome back to Boss Talk. I'm so excited to see you here tonight. Shout out to Lindsay and Alana Lindsay.
Whoa, one of a kind.
Let's all move that a little bit. It's Wednesday, it's Hump Day, and we are back. We're back. So I love Wednesday, it's Hump Day. It's the middle of and
Whoa, one of a
I know it's
kind.
hard to sometimes it's hard to want to go because we're just ready for that end to come and reach back to the weekend. So I want to know what you're doing out there to help you make it through the rest of this week. So go ahead and put that in the chat and let us know. What are you doing to help you get through the rest of the week to the weekend? Another weekend's going to seem like it's going to go away. And y'all know I'd rather go to work. The good news is I love what I do, so I get to work. It's exciting. So I want to talk about what to do. And I want you to also take this time and now yeah, it's Boss Talk time. It's Wednesday at 6 o'clock on the West Coast. I'm really excited. I love it so much. So, what y'all doing out there? And I want you to take this moment and go ahead and send out the link. We are live on Facebook and we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So please go ahead and share this link out. There's some great information that's going to be shared tonight. You are going to get to meet a rock star, a true rock star in mental health and in life. And so I want y'all to make sure that you get some of your peeps in the room tonight so that you all can get to meet her so you can learn more about sickle cell anemia, which is a disease that is prominent for Black people. There are also some other races have had it and have, and do get it in there, like I think Mediterraneans, some indigenous people, but the prevalent number of individuals who suffer with sickle cell anemia are African American or Black people. It is a disorder that is near and dear to my heart. I have a niece or she's not really my niece, but you know how when your cousin is so young, she's like your niece. So a cousin who actually had it, and then a stepbrother who actually had it and was told that he would only live till he was 18, and he lived well into his 60s, y'all. So God is good, and only he knows, right? So, hey, Mavis, thank you for joining, sis. It's so good to see you over there in Biloxi. How are you? Good to see you. And hi, Cece. Cece said, 2 deacons from my church do public speaking about themselves living with sickle cell. Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Well, we are going to talk about that today, but I want to tell you what I love most about my guest is her zest for life and grasping it and living it on full tilt boogie. And y'all know I'm a stand for that. And so this is someone that I recently met, and we kind of connected over the whole mental health thing. You know how you know your people? That's kind of what happened with us. So I'm going to bring her on so you all can meet her. So she is a marriage family therapist. She is a brand spanking new, ink ain't dry yet on that degree, doctor of psychology. Yay! And she is also a certified sex coach. So we got a lot to talk about, y'all. So without another word from me, please, Boss Talkers, welcome to Boss Talk, Dr. Felicia Hunt.
Yay! Nice.
Girl, It's so good to see you. Welcome.
You too. Yes, glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And we're just going to talk about a lot of different things and have some fun. How about that?
Very good. I'm all for that.
Yes. So I'd like to start with how we met, actually, because that is always I always have fun stories on how I meet people. So you want to tell them the story?
Well, through a mutual friend of ours, we didn't know because we didn't know each other. She had a book signing, which is Dr. Burlington, Daphne Burlington, and we met at her book signing. And it was an awesome gathering, and all the ladies got together and was having a great chat about the book. I mean, about her book and what she was saying, and getting to know each other. So it was a great time, and it was wonderful meeting you. We have a lot of things in common, music and being therapists, and we just hit
Yes.
it off really well. And yes, I'm so glad and grateful that we met.
Me too. Me too. And may I share our newest venture together?
If you like, I didn't know. I didn't want to say you go ahead and do that part.
So the well, when we met, I think Dr. Daphne had us go around and introduce ourselves and say kind of what we do. And I introduced myself, I think second, as the way the line went around. And I could see that when I said I was a licensed marriage family therapist, I saw Felicia's face kind of light up, and she kind of gave this knowingness look. And so on a break, I went over and said, "Are you a therapist?" And she said, "Yes." And I was like, "Ah." And like she said, from there we were definitely connected, very like-minded, very like in spirit and in the things that we do, which is awesome. And so as we have talked more and more since then, we have made a decision that Dr. Felicia will be joining the team at Living Loved Pathways to Holistic Healing. And so we're very excited about that. Very excited to bring her on board. And she's actually going to be coming into the office tomorrow to check it out. So that's another great thing. It's really it's a tedious dance to find clinicians who fit the scope of everything that your vision is, right? And so the piece that I learned today, I don't remember this, but I did not know that you were a sex coach, certified sex coach, which is awesome and adds a little bit extra flavor to what we do here. I'm actually in the process of doing a study on that myself. I'm going to become certified as a sex coach. I think it's important. And so let's start out with that piece. Now, when did you get your certification?
I actually got my certification in 2021, but I had started the program way back in like 2016. It was your self-paced, but as we're going to get into it, I have sickle cell disease. So that kind of slowed things down for me. So I have to work at my own pace. It took me quite a bit. And, but I had been seeing, clients, doing the time, over about 7 years on that field of sex coaching. Yes.
Got it. Hey, Soror Rhonda James, welcome back to Boss Talk. It's good to see you. Rhonda says good evening and congratulations, Dr. Felicia Hunt. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I passed that dissertation on June 25th. Like she said, that ink is not dry yet.
Well, you all know I was very excited when she texted me and told me that she was going to be defending her dissertation topic, and I was so excited about that. One day I'll be doing the same. And go ahead and tell the audience what your topic was.
Yeah, so my topic was the ideology of supervision and cultural competence, how individual and group supervision break cultural barriers. So what came up for me to do that is that by being a marriage and family intern, I noticed some cultural biases. Matter of fact, I lost the intern based on some prejudice towards me. And so it was very devastating, very hurtful. And when it came time to say, hey, what do you want to do your dissertation on? I figured cultural competence, because I wanted to know, like, what is it? Is it really such a thing? Can a therapist and a supervisor really become culturally competent? And if it's not that word, what is it? Like cultural humility and cultural sensitivity.
Yes.
Both people in my study really like those words. And I found out a lot of things about how former supervisors or current supervisors and psychologists and folks in the field really felt about it, what they knew, what they didn't know. And it just unfolded this plethora of information that I'm so excited to be able to share about cultural competence and, really unpack that. We talk about cognitive dissonance when it comes to folks of non-color having, but it's a choice. It's no longer that you can have this this cognitive dissonance. It's a choice of taking responsibility on how you feel about others. And I think I provided a platform that will give every person, especially those who are Black people, a way of leaning in for more connection and understanding people of color versus always having these conflicts but amongst us. And that's what I wanted to do, is like fill that gap of how can supervision be a place where the conversation can begin, and I also found out that oppressed people oppress people. So people of color oppress each other. And so when we are in the mental health field, how is it that we need to figure out how is it that we're really providing services, and how are we teaching those who are coming up to be in this profession to really watch out for those kind of things. And so I wanted to unpack that and bring awareness that you have a choice as a clinician, a supervisor, to choose how you want to be. And so most of the studies and research say that in order to be the best supervisor, you have to know who you are.
Right.
You really have to know who you are. You have to be a mentor. You have to be someone who really cares about other people. And you have to just know how to switch those hats to problem solve, to really do that conflict resolution and get to the bottom of things. So you really have to be a special person who really want to, take the initiative and stand up and say, hey, I'm here for you, no matter race, creed, sex, color. Let's do this.
Right. So, absolutely. I love that you brought up cultural humility.
Yes.
So in a training that I do, which is called What Every Therapist Needs to Know About Black Folks and Other People of Color, BIPOC, that is a term that I introduce. Many of the people that I'm doing the training for have never heard of that word. And I think that, when we were in school, it was cultural competence.
Yes.
And that was something that they talked about. But I, like you, feel like it wasn't feted out enough to actually look at what that was going to look like in real time and in the real world. And I think that cultural competence was thought about from the perspective that all the therapists were going to be white and they were going to have to deal with people of other races. And the amount of unknowingness that happens even from those who are teaching cultural competence, not being people of color, I find it's kind of laughable that they teach it in the way that they do, and you walk out of there still making big faux pas, putting big foots in big mouths. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? We want to become conscious, and we have to understand that history, you have to be aware of history of something that the educational system don't want to do, especially when it comes to Black history, which is American history, which is
Exactly.
our history, which is everybody's history.
Exactly.
They don't want to tap into it because of the atrocities, right, that has happened to Black and brown
Right.
people. But the thing is, we have to accept that and know where we come from, because we have to Sankofa, look back, turn and fetch that history. And so we'll know where we're going, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that I did with my dissertation. I introduced the word Sankofa to say, hey, I needed to turn back to my history to see how this stuff started.
Yes. Come on, Dr.
We
George.
were not included in psychology. None of the theories were for us, about us, so I had to reveal that to say, when you start wrong, you end wrong. So we have, so we have to, everybody have to agree that this is what happened. And so in order to correct the issue, so
Yes.
it's not to continue to stigmatize anyone. And that's the thing. When you use words like minority and all these stereotypes, we only are perpetuating white supremacy
Further.
And we're not conscious of, even when we use words like disparities, those words were created for the Black population, or like tag words to let folks know you're talking about a person of color, right? I even found out that minority, when they created the word, it means lazy. So every time they call a Black person minority, they calling you lazy. So,
oh, see, talk more about that. Enlighten us. What is that about?
Well, they hide it in language, like Dr. Martin Luther King said that somebody told a lie one day and they couched it in language. They said that everything Black was ugly, right? So there it is right there. It's like the language, even in the language that we use as professionals, when we talk about disparities and minority, we are supporting white supremacy, because those words were created to place us in a category to keep us separate. We have been a part of a planned a planned system to keep us oppressed, right?
That's right.
So when we don't know that and we use those words and we talk about it and talk about other Black folks, that's when oppressed people. We don't even realize.
Yes, I love.
We don't even realize. And so, I just wanted to bring awareness, like even be aware of your language. When you talk about a person, it's always a reason, especially with mental health, it's always a reason for behavior.
Ooh, come on.
It's always a reason for behavior. You can't say that person is just lazy and all those words that come with when you're talking about a Black person. I had this event, and you know how they are. They're nobody's show. We do that. We're just perpetuating what was placed on us from that construction of racism, And so we have to be aware, because we have to think that there's many of people that probably want to show up to whatever we may put on. But guess what? Because of the gap, or the equity gap, or because there is this planned poverty that was put on us, we can't make it. Or maybe we just don't know. We don't have the money. We don't have a car. Maybe it's the distance, it's where we are. So if we're going to bridge the gap, right, we have to make sure we provide the services necessary to make sure these people get the information. Some people just don't know. And that's where compassion has to come in.
Oh, yes. Girl, you scream, you singing my song. I love it. I want to take a second to shout out my brother there. Hey, Darwin. Thanks for tuning in, bro. Good to see you. So, Dr. Felicia, you just used the word equity gap,
right,
which immediately replaced disparity for me. Am I right?
Correct.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So don't be out there talking about the disparities in healthcare.
Right. You talk about
Say that
right.
we are living under a system that perpetuates an equity gap. Oh, I like it. I like
Yes,
it.
yes. Well, I can't take credit for that on my own. I am working with another nonprofit called OMG Wow. It's Women Outreaching Women. And it's a platform that really focus on the equity gaps and the inequities that have been going on for centuries with women. And so we've been in discussions about how we can fill those gaps. And so,
Yes,
yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. And what is the OMG part of that?
That's a good question. I know women are reaching women, but OMG, wow, oh my God, it's like, oh my God, right? But I
Maybe that's it.
you put me on the spot on that one. I really hadn't researched that. I just love the OMG, wow, it's like what
Me
she came
too.
up. But yeah, I invited her to come on. So if she's on here, she can type it in there. But
Yes. If you're out there, Miss OMG, wow, please type that in
Miss
so we can
Peggy,
know.
if you showed up. But yeah.
Yes. Well, I love what you're saying, and I do want to go back to what you said about it's always a behavior,
Yes.
a reason for a behavior.
Yes.
And then I love that you connected that to compassion, because I think that is something that we often are missing, even as people of color, because we can want so badly for everyone to show up in their pretty Sunday clothes, if you know what I'm saying. When we go to the cookout, we are looking for everyone to show up a certain way.
Yeah.
And then we tend to not be too happy when, Uncle Felix come in acting like
always one in a group, always
and doing what he be doing. Okay. And then there's a problem. So I love that it has to start with us, the compassion, the understanding, the question, the why, the asking of the question. Why is this happening? Why is it that A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, rather than A, B, C, F, and G, and right? So I love that.
Yeah. Yes. So to answer that, I mean, I love Dr. Gurry's work, post-traumatic slave syndrome, and she talks about it in her work, where that comes from and how we carried on things that we don't understand why the enslaved Africans did what they did and said what they said. And so now, because it got lost in the translation and we say those things today, we don't understand that they were doing it for survival.
Right.
The things that we do today and how we talk today as Black people, we don't necessarily need to be that way anymore, but it's been passed down from generation. Well, my mama did, my grandmama did, his mama did, that kind of thing. And we won't give ourselves permission to change.
Ooh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
We can really give ourselves permission to change and come up with better ways to communicate. For an example, I think Dr. DeGurry talks about how, here's two students in school. One is a white child, one is a Black child. Both the parents going to the award, ceremony, and the white mom say to the Black mom, hey, your son, the Black mom said to the white mom first, and your son is exceptional. I'm so glad and proud. Congratulations. The white one like, yes, yes, da, 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 da. And then she turned around, and you and your son, and we say, oh no, he gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
That part, right? We don't even take the
take it in.
And take it in and say, yes, my baby did that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's a mess though. He a handful. But when she put it against or juxtaposed it against why we do that, and you go back to the enslaved African, when master come around and says, yeah, how's that son of yours? Oh, master, he's shiftless. He no good, because why? She's protecting her son from being sold. and separated from the family. So no, we ain't gonna say, "Oh, he's fine,"
Brightest thing I ever seen. Smartest whip.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to know how to really give our children, our community, what it needs.
Mm-hmm.
We have to learn how to do that because, see, that's what was taken from us.
Absolutely.
Was a sense of community. We so spread out here in California, we don't even know how many of us is here. You know what I'm saying? We so spread out. You know what I mean? We like, we don't see each other, but if we go to Chicago, go to New York, we go to, Texas, we go to Atlanta, we can see ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
And you can see a community, you can see people thriving and doing stuff. But when you don't see yourself, you don't know what it's like to be yourself, right? And so that's that's why you get this assimilation and a lot of other problems come with that too. But my dissertation do cover all of that. It goes into assimilation, how all these things were considered and what would happen as a result. And then I didn't want to look at race. I really just wanted to look at culture. And so I looked at race because I figured it was a social construct. And why look at it? Because it was made up. There's no particular thing really as a race, other than how we biologically made. And we're not that different. Where it's like a human race, really. Right. And so I really just wanted to look at culture. Why? Because with culture, we all have certain things we live by that makes us move, that make us feel like human beings, that make us feel a part, whether it's our foods, our style of clothes, what is the culture, that brings you together, or that a therapist can look at another person of color and understand their culture to be able to talk to them with what matters to them. So it's more of a client-centered kind of thing happening. Yes. And especially if the supervisor is coming from a cultural perspective, then the intern can come from a cultural perspective. Then the client or the patient will be seen and heard from a cultural perspective.
They get to experience everything from that perspective. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Seals. Hey, back at you. Thank you for tuning in once again on Boss Talk on a Wednesday afternoon. Mr. Seals Williams says a lot of our characteristics from the epigenetics of our spiritual ancestors. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Dr. Joy talks a lot about that in post-slavery syndrome. In the training that I was telling you about, that I definitely use that. I talk about Sankofa because and I make the distinction between Bessel van der Kolk and what he says about turning away and not looking back. And there's no need to go back and revisit, some of the trauma. And though Dr. Joy is not saying let's immerse ourselves in vicarious trauma or, let's stay in it, let's re-traumatize ourselves. She's not saying that, but what she is saying is we must return to our ancestry.
To understand what happened.
Yes, what you
not the trauma, but what was done.
Right. And if you don't what you don't acknowledge, you are bound to repeat. Hello, somebody. Yes. Right. Yes.
So you won't repeat it again.
Exactly. And so you better understand oneself, because I think that even if I think about young men growing up in quote unquote the hood, who don't have the resources that their counterparts have, that and don't have the understanding about themselves that their counterparts are privy to. When I look at all of that and I think about and see the brilliance that is there, you know, and think about what's being said about them, what they hear about themselves, what they take in about themselves. And now let's connect that to post-slavery syndrome because of what still lives in the body.
In the genes.
Yes. And so there's just so much that goes into it that no one ever takes a look at. So I am so proud of you for doing that work and for applying it to such an important profession, the helping profession, because we are out here every day, quote unquote, helping people. And there are people that help us to get through this process, the supervisors. And I can tell you, some of mine were horrendous.
Yeah.
And I was always up on my soapbox about what was wrong and why, no, you're not going to do that to me. And no, you're not going to say that to me. And I will never forget, I had a situation where I worked at a group home where the children were from low-income families, had experienced all kinds of trauma. They were all people of color, not just all Black, but just people of color or poor, and ended up in the system. Some of them for offenses, others of them for truancy. However, they were all lumped into the same space. So you have your educated criminal, the one who really knows how to commit crime, with the kid who doesn't go to school.
Right.
So now you're mixing that. So this kid who doesn't go to school is in here learning how to become a hardened criminal. That's one thing. Number two thing is then you have people working with them who don't get it, who view them as less than, not enough.
See?
From the very beginning. And then they try to supervise me, who has compassion, who understands it, who's done some reading and gets it, and try to supervise me to treat them a certain way and to expect less from them and all those kinds of things. And it just never worked. And there was a situation where a young woman who was supposed to be able to return back to our facility was not able to because somebody who was on my staff that I was the director or supervisor of dropped a ball, and the decision was made without me. And when I asked about it and said, how is it that someone who is my subordinate makes a decision about the house I run and nobody saying anything, and it sticks, and Monday morning we're not reversing this? And you know what I was told? Get over yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what resign.
That's arrogance, right? Let's see that as arrogance. How dare you stand up for your,
Yes. Yes. And those are the things. What made her think that was okay to say to somebody that she supervised? How was that helpful? How was that forward moving in my growth and learning and understanding of my job? Not a bit.
Not at all. It didn't forward move anything.
Yeah, exactly. And, here's a child who was in the balance.
Right.
A young Black woman who was in the balance, who is no longer alive today.
Wow. Today.
No longer alive. And so that for me said, you got to go into private practice.
Right.
Because you need to be able to do this in a way that makes a difference for what is important to you.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you are a clinician, an up and coming clinician, private practice is an option. Cut your teeth on all the agency work you can possibly muster, because you'll learn a lot there. But also surround yourself with people who are looking at it from a client-centered place and not a place of matching quotas and, all of those things.
Or using power.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So
much.
Go ahead. You were going to say something.
I'm just saying it's so much, basically, that Francis Quest Welsing, and I'm paraphrasing, says, if you don't understand white supremacy, everything you think you know is only going to fool you.
Woo-hoo. I like that.
People get mad at me. They're like, it seems like you hate white people, or you seem like you ain't got over. And it's not that. It's like, I understand that in order for me to keep moving forward in my future, I have to understand things that had happened that are still occurring and why they are that way. And they are set up in a way where it's a design to keep us. And so me as a healer, a therapist, I want people to know, despite the plan,
right.
Despite the plan, We are powerful human beings who have spirit, who can create within ourselves. As long as we understand ourselves and feel good about ourselves, we could create our destiny however we want to. We just have to allow ourselves to let go of some of our own trauma or hurts or things that we have experienced in the past. Because if you make a decision on what happened in the past, you're going the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Your outcomes are not going to meet up to your standards that you're trying to reach. Absolutely. So you have to give yourself permission to let the past go, build a new now, and create the future you want to have. And so that's that's my whole idea of, helping people. And that's why I wanted to be a sex coach, because we are born in our sex. When I heard my professor, people in my class thought I was crazy because I during there jumped out of my chair and my skin. I was like, she said, we are born in our sex. And it was like a light bulb moment that and I was like, what? I was like looking at people. Did you hear what she said? Mm-hmm. We are born in our sex. They was like, and people was looking like, I said, you don't get it? Like, that's who we are. It's like the thing that we have trouble with most is around sexuality. A lot of issues come up around sexuality. And if you understand you are born in that, it is your birthright, is yours. You can identify yourself as you know you were created to be. It's like, that was freedom to me. Like, what? Yes. Like, I could tell the whole world. Like,
that is what I call living in your who you are-ness.
Yeah, all right. Yes. Living in who you are-ness. Yes. So I just call it, living an authentic life. Yeah. Living in how God created you to be, or how whoever your higher power, I'm not caught up in names and all of that, created you to be. That's right. And that's your freedom. That's your birthright. It is your sex. It is what was given to you, And so, I mean, I just love when my clients get in and it turns. And they get to creating and they get to have the relationships that they want, because now they can be vulnerable. Especially couples, they can be vulnerable to one another to really create and design the relationship that they want to have. It don't have to be based on what they saw in the past, what their parents believe, how it didn't work for somebody else, all that other stuff. No, you have the permission to create your own relationship. And so that means even if you're single, you have the power to create your own relationship with yourself and how you want to be in the world.
Yes, which is so important to start right there. Start right there. The collective, hello, welcome to Boss Talk. The collective says, yes, we must understand what happened. So on point. Knowing and understanding self is essential. 100%. And I want to repeat this because it is just brilliant. If you make decisions based on the past, you are going the wrong way. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Seal says, I am so happy to hear you say, doctor, that people think you hate white people just for telling the truth, because I get the same thing from people that I love. Absolutely.
Oh my God. I had a group come at me. I'm in this group from Africa, like I meet up with them once a week. And I always talk about that, the history. And they just not too far removed from apartheid and all that. And they don't want to discuss it at all. And they came at me like, it seems like you have a problem. Like you haven't forgiven. And, we don't want to go back to that. We don't want. I was like, well, then you ain't gonna know where you're going. It's like, how do you know when you're dealing with people that they dealing with you on the up and up, that they have your best interests at heart, if you don't begin to start to ask the right question, like, how do you know that what you call yourself wanting to do for this population, which is mostly Black, that you can do it? What kind of training have you had to say that you can help this population? Because do you know your triggers? Do you know like what can actually trigger you to mistreat somebody? Have you really
Yes. Done your work? Have you done your work?
Have you discovered your biases and accepted them and really admitted to yourself that you have some biases?
Absolutely.
Like, come on now.
Absolutely.
Like, how do you think you can help people of color? And when they do something, the first thing that comes to your mind, you want to call them lazy. How quick you forget that these people always work, and they work for free.
Absolutely.
Yeah, their ancestors work for free. Like,
to benefit yours.
Was placed above them. Everybody.
To benefit yours. Absolutely. To benefit your ancestors, right?
Benefit, how quickly you forget.
Yes.
You benefited from that time.
And I was talking about this with someone earlier today, that when you are living in these spaces and you are pro-Black, then the idea is that you are anti-white.
Yeah.
And so when I do my training, I start out with, what was your first experience of understanding your racial identity?
Right.
Right? Because we definitely know ours. I know mine was getting ready to go to kindergarten and picking up the little girl, and her mama, and she told me she couldn't. We had made a plan that I was going to pick her up at school. My daddy was going to drive over there. We was going to scoop her up, and off we were going to first grade.
Right.
My daddy pulled up, and I go to the door, and she comes out and comes to the door and says, "I can't go to school with you." Just as a matter of fact. And I was like, "Why?" Because my mommy said I can't play with N-word.
What is that?
That was my first recollection of my racial identity.
Right.
Is that, something about this is different from that, and is it okay? Thank God for my parents, because my daddy said, "Nope, we ain't going to school yet." We went back home.
Right.
And we got the dictionary.
Yeah.
And Daddy had me look up that word, lazy, and all this and that. Ignorant, it said. And that now this is 66. Okay, first grade. And Daddy said, "Are you those things?" And I said, "No." He says, "What does Daddy tell you about you? That I am smart, I am beautiful, I can do anything I want." "Yeah, so that doesn't apply to you."
Not you at all.
Called the school, told them we were going to be late. We got there. But see, not enough of that is happening, because folks, and the conversations aren't happening after that, because a lot of the Caucasian people that end up in this training share that their first experience was more like what I experienced with them being the perpetrators of it. And some of them are transparent and honest about that with apologetically, but they were taught by their parents.
Right. Exactly. It's a flip side to
look
it.
like us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I put that in my study too. Like, Dr. Williams said, racism is bred in the home. You know what I'm saying? It's started in the home and all of that, so people can understand, like, really grasp, like, this history of all of these things that had happened, so that today we can understand the conditions and states of mind that we all are in.
Yes.
We all are sick if we don't begin to notice. I always say the healing is noticing. The healing is in it. When you begin to notice, you can then begin to change your life.
Absolutely.
So when you notice what you've been doing, what you've been saying, what you've been thinking, because we know in cognitive behavioral theory that if you think it, you feel it, you behave it. So you have the power to change all of that.
Absolutely.
Just by noticing. But some people don't want to go that deep. They don't want to know themselves that deep. It can be very painful. And I understand that.
Yes.
But that's what it's going to take.
Right.
I'm not going to do your work for you.
Absolutely.
But I'll help you get there.
Exactly. I can walk with you. But you have to be willing to hold up that mirror. And take it. Yeah. Well, I'm involved in the therapist organization's CAMF, California Association of Marriage Family Therapists. And I'm a part of the San Fernando Valley CAMF chapter. And so back in 2017, I founded their diversity committee. And it's a journey because still, then to now, there are maybe 2 consistent Black folks that are there.
Yeah.
And we need to actually take a deeper look at why that is.
Yeah. Well, I want to tell you something about that word diversity.
Okay.
That's
Go ahead.
word where we get lost as Black people. Diverse, because now you can put any person of color there, and then they don't have to deal with Black people.
But wait, and even further, I understand, and even further, because we also in diversity is included LGBTQ, differently abled people, and all of that. So that does take away the people of color piece that is the mainstay of where the problem is.
Exactly, because they can deal with everybody else.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you put diversity in there, hey, I don't have to deal with your issue.
Exactly. This other is bigger fish to fry over here. No, you're right. You're 100% right. I get it.
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, it's okay. It's going to exist that way. But for us to be aware, like when we are in our circles, our community, when we're building community,
right,
that we have to know what it takes to keep the community, And so, and that's another thing that as a person of color, Black, I've noticed, because I was raised on the south side of Chicago in the projects.
Chi-Town.
Yeah, Chi-Town. And I remember a time we can borrow egg or sugar and whatever. We had community. It's like you knew your neighbor, right? But with that system being broken, where do our support really come from? Do you have support, that made you able to have a leg up when times were tight or short, and that's what we're going to have to, that's the remembering the former things of old kind of a thing, where we have to remember how did we support one another, because when you get a group of us together, the system doesn't like that.
Oh, no, they don't like that at all.
We're great when we together. We can create all sorts of things can get to happening,
Absolutely.
And that's what we have to go back to, without worrying about what others can do for us, or not worrying about what they may do to us, not worrying about that, but building a strong community to support one another.
Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
You doing over there? What you doing? Okay, I'll be there.
I'll take this part. Exactly. I'm good at this part. 100%. 100%. Yeah. The collective says, that's it, Dr. Hunt. Yes, the light just went on for me. We are born into our sexuality. I love it. Thank you. I love it. Yes, I love that. You don't get it till the minute you get it, and that's good. That's all right. Hey, Brother Allen, what are you saying here? It is mandatory to know our history, understand how the oppression of our past has or will impact our future, which play into the racism, relationships, or a person's sexual orientation. Yes. Let's see what's saying. Here we got. William is agreeing with Brother Allen. He says, I love what was stated by Brother Allen. We must understand the oppression of our past, but we also must realize the oppression of the present. Absolutely.
And are you that perpetrator?
Okay. Boom,
are you perpetrating it? Like, not other people, you know.
Yes, what is our own part? The language, like what you were saying. I love it. Hello, Jada Monet. Blessings. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Boss Talk tonight. Is this your first time on? Welcome. Thank you. So, Dr. Felicia, this is good stuff. And we only have a few minutes left. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So I do want to get to this part. So listen, y'all, you all have had the experience of experiencing, you've had the opportunity to experience the passion and the joy and the brilliance that Dr. Felicia brings to this work as a clinician, as a therapist, as a sex coach. And what I also wanted to talk about was the part of her that is an overcomer, in that she mentioned earlier that she lives with sickle cell anemia. And I want to talk about that because I think so often we think of a clinician and we think of a therapist as the answer and the person that's going to help us through something, and they're strong and they're this and they're that. And we don't see them for their personhood often. Now, I also think that some of that is based on how the therapist shows up, but a lot of on the outside and overall scale, we are here to help people. And no one ever thinks about what we are overcoming and going through in our daily lives and what challenges we face that might impact us physically, emotionally, mentally, and all of that. Yet here you are doing all this amazing work, and you have a challenge in your life that can impact how you feel on the daily. So can we talk a little bit about that and how you manage that?
Yes. So I was diagnosed at 6 years old with sickle cell disease. There's many types. I have SS. There's SC, SOR. I mean, there's all many types. And so as I was growing up, I had a lot of crises when I was little, in and out, in and out. Hospitals was my second home. When I got into my 20s, I realized I had a son at this time, and you know, just coming up and learning more about myself, living with this disease, I said, well, you know, going in and out of the hospital is not healthy either, you know, because all they can do, because there's no cure, is give you oxygen, pain medication, and IV, you know, fluids, because the fluid is to flush the blood because the cells get stuck, and that's what causes the pain to get thick. And then the oxygen, which helps supply the oxygen to the blood to help things flow. And of course, the medication to ease the pain while you're going through the crisis. And so many people, warriors, they call us, warriors, have died from complications of having sickle cell. And I didn't want to run the risk of in and out, and then having these complications. And so early on in my early 20s, I started thinking about what caused my crisis to come on. That's the approach I took. Like, it's some stressors. I know it's some stressors that are making me sick, and other people are going on with their lives, and I'm stressing about something. And I knew I was very insecure about myself and how I felt about myself. And so I hated confrontations because of, you know, being reared in a house of domestic violence. That took my voice away and made me very scary of people and situations. And so when it came time to standing up for myself, I wouldn't do it. So I would internalize, hold on, guess where I'd be? In the hospital. So I had to make up my mind to say, hey, you know, you got to take a different approach. You got to start standing up for yourself and, you know, speaking your truth. So it's just been a journey. And all I thought I could ever be by having this disease was a mother. I never thought I could be anything else. All I thought, well, I was just good enough. I'm going to be the greatest mother I can ever be. You know, that's all I thought I could do. And so after many years later, my son was 6 years old. I did get married. After divorce, I was like, I hadn't found myself. I still needed to do something. And thus my academic journey began. And so I started from JC to masters to all the way to doctors, you know. So, but the way that I do it is I learned like breathing techniques. I just learned my triggers and started to deal with them head on. You know, learning how to eat right. About in 2021, I had to start dialysis, and I got off of dialysis, and I was off for about a year and 3 months, and just about 4 months ago, I had to get back on. But I'm glad to say today I'll be getting off of dialysis again. They're taking the port out very soon because I just continue to learn how to take care of this body.
Yeah.
And then I'm just very open with my clients about, I got to go get blood transfusions when I'm not feeling well. They support me. I think because I hold a space for them, they can hold a space for me. And I just try to be, I hate that word, try. I attempt to be the best me that I can be. And I just show up. And as a result, my clients support me. And long as I keep my stress levels down and I do the things that I love, I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. So, yeah. So that's how
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, and your transparency is a beautiful thing. And I am excited that the clients that are assigned, that are our assignment here at Living Loved, will have the opportunity to experience your brilliance, your beauty, your compassion, your heart, and your soul. Because I believe that with the work that you're doing, with your dissertation, and with your commitment to this, that it is your soul that is showing. And I love that. I'm so excited to have you join us. And I love also that you talked about being about how your clients support you, and how and I love that, because in school we're taught that we're supposed to.
Yeah.
What's going on with you? You come in like this. What's going on? Nothing. I'm fine. What's going on with you today? And it's like you can't.
Right, and you can't have these kind of relationships, right?
Exactly. And so I think that, I've had some situations where I've had to be very transparent with my clients. I lost my husband to COVID. How am I going, and I didn't see them for a long time. And so they were waiting for me when I came back, even when the pandemic started. And they were all like, no, we'll be fine. We're just going to take a little break for these 2 weeks. And then turn back around. It was another 2 weeks and another month. And by June, they were all jumped back on the bandwagon, because I think that just being open and being honest about your humanity is what they need to believe that they can overcome and
they see you're human too. And I want my clients to know that. I don't want them to think I'm up here and they down here. I want them to know I'm in it with you.
Exactly. And in school, they tell you don't put any pictures of your family on your desk, and don't, if they ask you if you're married, you're supposed to say, and how will that further your experience as what? No, that's crazy. So I appreciate.
Well, I think that's a cultural thing. That's why I made the cultural approach. That's it.
Yes. Jada, thank you for tuning in for the first time, and we are so happy to have you. Hope you'll come again and again and again and share. Tell folks to join us. We are here every Wednesday at 6:00. And so let's see, we had one more comment I wanted to put up. I really have a problem with the word racism, because the actions that are forth are more like hatred. The actions that are forth. I think I get what you're saying. I think you're saying that racism is a very kind word to consider some of the behaviors that go along with what it really is. Thank you, Mr. Seals, for that. Well, we are coming to an end here, and I'm so sad because it's been such a joy to have you. But I always like for my guests to share with the Boss Talkers one final thought before you go. And I'm going to put up your information so that they can find you. I'm going to put up Dr. Felicia's info here. Let's see. This is her, all of her things. I love it when you're well branded, my dear. Her website, her Facebook, and her IG are at Sex Coach or Sex Coach. Y'all get it. Sexcoach.life, and that's how you spell it. 6EX coach.life. And those things are all there. And then there's something that Dr. Felicia wanted to let you all know about. And in Los Angeles, this is going to be happening. If you want more information about this organization that's putting on this event, Giant Pioneers and Visionaries, Past, Present, and Future, the 15th Annual Sickle Cell Disease Summit, September 13th through 16th, 2023. And you can get more information at outreach at Cayenne SCD. Yeah, CayenneSCDseminar.org. So you can go there to get more information. So please, Dr. Felicia, I'm going to leave that up for a couple seconds. You all can come right back here anytime using the same link that you got on with and get some of this information out of the chat. So Dr. Felicia Hunt, please. Yes. Have you gotten used to that yet?
No, I'll be like, what should I put down? Like, should I tell people? Like, what? I'm like, I don't know what to do yet.
Well, I'm going to tell you a quick little story. So when I went to my first residency, as I was working on my doctorate, I was in Arizona, and we were celebrating the end of the first week of my residency, and we went to dinner. And at the restaurant, the waitress was familiar with people coming, following residency and whatnot. And so she surprised me with a chocolatey, yummy dessert. Mm-hmm. And in raspberry sauce, she wrote ... actually, it's doctor. So I share that with you.
All right.
Dr. Felicia, and say, Miss Felicia, you say, oh, darling, actually, it's doctor. Because you've done the work and you've done it well. So I applaud you and honor you. Yes.
Thanks.
So go ahead, leave us with that last tidbit of wisdom, please.
Me?
Yes. What would you like?
I thought you was reading somebody's work. Okay. So, I would just like to say, you are looking for. And no matter what you feel you are facing or pressed up against, the power is in you. You have already been approved from the beginning, from the foundation of the world. And all you have to do is just tap into it and know you can do it.
I like it. Yes, tap into it and know you can do it. Y'all out there, that comes from Dr. Felicia Hunt. And this has been Boss Talk with your girl, Shawn LeRae. You can connect with me at all those places, livinglovedhealing.org, livinglovecoaching.com if you need a coach, transformational performance coach. We deal with the behaviors that keep you stuck in believing that you can't when it's already been proven that you can. And you can reach me on Instagram at Living Loved Healing, on Facebook at Living Loved Healing, and my brand new nonprofit, which just had its first fundraiser. Shout out to Emmy Lou, world-renowned artist in Beverly Hills. You can find out more about the nonprofit and you can donate. Yes, you can, right there on that site at www.wjbcenter.com. And that stands for the William Joseph Brinkley Center for Cultural Affirmation. And so I want to thank y'all for tuning in again tonight. Jada, we hope to see you back again. To all my regulars out there, Mr. Seals, Brother Alan Shea, and thank you for tuning in, brother-in-law, Mr. Payton, Darwin Payton. Good to see you all who were here tonight. And share the link and please subscribe. We're trying to get me to 500. And right now I think we're at 172. It's just a few more to go. And I'm going to bring us out with the Boss Talk theme song, which I love. So here we go. And y'all just write it out. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And that's Boss Talk LA. And y'all know that's bold, one of a kind, sensational superstars. And that's you. Let's dance it out, y'all.
One of a kind.
See you next week. Hello, Gwendolyn. Thanks for tuning in, sis. Shalom, y'all. Y'all know what to do. Live love.